This will be a content warning of explicit and sexual material. Be advised, do not listen to this in front of children. Thank you. Hi y'all. I wanted to give a quick shout out to one of my subscribers. His name is Zeke. The next 2 stories that I read, he wrote. This one right here is called Skin in the Box. Well, some years back, I guess 1997, Don drops over with his sweet pit bull boxer mix named Babe, which doggy I helped raise, as Don is homeless and therefore can't be there for her every single moment of the day. So I ween, as usual, to Don about how impossible it seems to find a decent gay man that I could have a nice friendship with. Forget about a lover. Well, his sympathy inspires him to look around. Just 2 days later, he returns with Babe in tow to inform me. I know this really great guy named Chris who told me he'd be very interested in getting to know you. Well, what does he look like? I asked. Is he at least somewhat handsome? I think he is, professes Don. Can I bring him over tomorrow night so you can check him out? Of course, I reply. That sounds like a great plan. So the next night around 9 p.m., Don brings him over. I find Chris to be terribly handsome, even with his balding shock of golden blonde hair. He is about 36. I am at the time 47. He is modest in appearance but nicely built, and dark blue eyes, framed in round wire rims, well-formed shoulders and arms, trim waist, and a tight round butt, and a basket that didn't hide its ample girth between chocolate twill slacks. In other words, a boner material. So, we talk a while about rather neutral things until he announces he needs to get home before his roommates show up from their respective jobs. It is better, he says, that all the housemates hit the sack around the same time, else no one gets any sleep. And here I was about to unzip those pants and start tonguing that juicy wanger into hard bliss. Shortly after Chris departs, Dawn returns, and I tell him that I am impressed. So please give Chris my number, that we may arrange our next get-together. Chris shows up 3 nights later with a bottle of sparkling rosé. I provide the pot, and we are soon on the road to mutual orgasm. But something blocks the way. Don't know what it is, but Chris suddenly pulls up his boxer briefs and slacks, exclaims he must leave right now to tend to important business, even though he's been barely over for 45 minutes. So I say, okay, and he departs for places unknown. I jerk myself off. I am that turned on. I could still taste his fat crown and shaft upon my eager tongue hours later. 2 days later, Dawn returns with a lovely Babe who quickly runs to my bedding and curls herself up in blissful rest to ask how it went with Chris. So I tell him, not so well. We seem to be hitting it off when all of a sudden he felt compelled to leave, I reveal. But thanks, just the same, for trying to brighten my world. Don clears his throat and begins to confide. Guess I need to tell you about my association with Chris. When we were housemates 2 to 4 years ago. Okay, I agree. Tell me. At that point, we are mightily stoned on some kick-ass ganja, and I was ready for a good tale, though not so fraught with terror as the story he is about to tell. I lived with Chris from 94 to 96. We had 3 other housemates. This was in a flat, now part of the Intermission Projects, around 14th Street and Guerrero. So one night, when I got home, all the roommates were there except Chris. They were gathered around the kitchen table over a cardboard box that sat on the table and was partly opened, in spite of the bold printing that declared, "Do not open." Interesting, I interjected. Do go on. Well, my housemates were trembling as I reached for the box and opened it, while totally snockered on some of the best weed I've smoked in a long time. So, I opened the box to discover what looked like the human skin of a middle-aged male folded up. How did you know it was folded up? I challenged, though starting to shake from fear. Well, I carefully unfolded it to discover the skin of a dude about 5'10", including the testicle sac and anus on the opposite side. So, it was real skin? I goaded. So it seemed. I folded up the skin and placed it back in the box and in the refrigerator where my housemates discovered it. And then what, Dawn? Next morning I confronted Chris to ask him what's up with the box. Oh, you weren't supposed to see it, declared Chris. I'm a member of the Suicide Club, and my initiation was to steal a human skin from a funeral parlor. I'm sorry if that box upset you. You weren't supposed to open it. Well, continued Dawn as I start to freak out, all 3 housemates quickly moved to other residents except myself. I lingered on for a few more weeks. Well, how did you keep in association with Chris after that? I asked. Very cautiously, he replies. We never spoke to each other after that except to plan next week's groceries. A certain rage grew in my heart after hearing that ghastly tale, and I accuse. Dawn, get the fuck out of here. How dare you introduce me to a potential boyfriend, knowing all the time he's a fucked up grave robber or worse. I further lecture. You know, you need to see a priest, perhaps Father Young from the Holy Redeemer. How on earth could you keep such a scary revelation harbored in your soul for so many years? You need help and advice that I can never do for you on my own. Other than that, get the hell out of my room now. I am most upset that he turned me onto some really high-grade pot over telling me this ghoulish tale. Turned my euphoric high into a nightmare of astounding proportion. But I was already stoned out of my skull, helpless to find solid ground. He then grabs his pup's leash and excuses himself in record time. A few days later, I decided to question Chris about this by calling him up. Hello, Chris here, he answers. Hi, Chris. This is Zeke, a mutual friend of ours. Dawn invited you over to my place about a week ago. I enjoyed your company, but you had to leave early for some reason. Yeah, I remember. Sorry about that, but I did have a really nice time, and I'd like to see you again very soon. Well, that's nice, I agree. But first I must ask you something Dawn told me after you left. Okay, what's that? He said that he and your roommates discovered a strange box that you put in the fridge, and they opened it to discover a human skin totally intact. Chris starts to choke, but finally replies, You think everything Dawn says is true? No, I do not, I respond. But his story is so disturbing, I just had to ask. Next thing I know, there's a sudden click on the phone and we are disconnected. I've seen Chris 2 times since then, both times within 3 years of our initial meeting. Each time our paths crossed, he scurried to the other side of the street before I had a chance to confront him. Otherwise, he has completely disappeared from my world. Yet, here it is almost 16 years later, without any resolution on the eerie tale. Dawn and I had many adventures, most of them good, but 2 times in our friendship, they were very, very bad. This is one of them. I will save a future time to tell the other bad tale. It will make your skin crawl beyond this present confession, whether it's in a box or not. This is the second bad tale that I will tell of Zeke's. It's called the Screaming Machete. Okay, as I promised, here's a second true horror story. Even scarier than Skin in the Box, which also involves Dawn Walls as a hapless messenger of evil tidings. Sometime in 1998 or 1999, it is well after sunset that Dawn buzzes my unit to bring me a gift, and thought would make for a hilarious conversation piece. Why on earth he thought of me among all his many friends to be the recipient of such a diabolical curio is beyond my comprehension. I must remain one of those secrets buried with him now that he has passed on. Personally, I believe he was paranormally seduced into delivering it unto my unsuspecting hands, for which reason will be clear as this tale progresses. So, I pick up the phone. Yeah, it's me. Got something for you. Why on earth do my friends refuse to identify themselves and assume I'll recognize her voice over this tiny intercom after I've told them time and time again to state their name? It's not like I don't have enemies who often force me to scream my cause. I ponder before replying. Well, who is it? Don, let me in. He responds while chuckling like a demented crackhead, which he is not, though he does have his idle, idiotic moments. So, I press 9 on the dial pad that he may open the gate and enter. Then I step into the hallway and await his ascent up the cheaply carpeted stairway, illuminated by dim 20-watt light bulbs that glare naked from the brass chains which dangle from the 14-foot ceiling. My apartment building is ancient, built in 1904, and is a very much haunted lair. Rumor has it that the Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan, once lived there in the turret. He appears holding some sort of machete sheathed in leather, with a handle that also appears to be leather, but is carved or shaped into some sort of face without any color other than desiccated cowhide. Upon closer inspection, the face appears to be a Mexican devil with a twisted grin. Its eyes seem to roll. I shudder. Once, in my SRO, I withdrew the long, curved knife from its sheath to discover a slightly rusted but still sharp machete with several splashes of dry blood on it. At least I think it's blood, due to its dark maroon shade. Could be something else though, but the overall impact is chilling. So I quickly place it back in the scabbard. I set it on desk number 2. This is hideous, Don. Where did you find it? In a dumpster by Dolores Park, he gloats. Well, it's a scary object, and I don't think I could live with this thing in the same room. Oh, but why don't you keep it overnight? He suggests. If you don't really want it, just pass it on to someone who does, insists Don, who then says he's got a split to pick up Babe from a friend's place. So I'm suddenly left alone in my dumpy hovel with a machete that grins evilly at me, no matter where in the room I stand. I find it most unnerving. I can't concentrate very well on my computer's BBS activities or television. Before hitting the sack, I decided to pull the ladder out from beside the fridge, climb it, and place the fending object on the loft. Out of sight, out of mind. Or so I believe. But once tucked cozily in bedding, I drifted into a most unsettling slumber. Dreams of a talking machete haunt my sleep. It jumps out of the sheath and lands on desk number 3 to chide me. Your enemies created me to slay you. Anyone who grabs my hilt will be suddenly compelled to slash you into many pieces. Then this devil hilt grins even wider and screeches an ultra-high pitch that can only be heard by my disturbed imagination. My eardrums feel as if punctured by sewing needles, and a chill sweat drenches the 2 comforters meant to keep me warm on icy nights. I awake many times through the damp, wee hours, looking up at the loft in fear that machete will suddenly leap onto my bed and slit my throat. Morning arrives fast, and I fix a quick breakfast of rolled oats and raisins, then depart for Muddy Waters Coffee House on Church Street with this strange knife sheathed and secured in my backpack. After ordering a mocha latte and lemon bar, I notice Topaz seated 4 tables away. He's a recent acquaintance I first met some weeks at this venue, has an antler nose, thick frame glasses, and long, straggly hair that falls well below the shoulders. No muscle tone whatsoever, just a flabby geek between the age of 24 and 32. So, I decide to show him the machete, rise from my chair, and approach him. "Hello, Paz. May I sit down?" "Sure," he invites. "What's up, Zeke?" I then tell him of the extraordinary items I received last night from a street buddy, and would he like to check it out. "Only please don't remove the blade from its sheath," I instruct. Then withdrew the curious item from my pack and place it on the table. But no sooner do I sit it down than he ignores my plea and slides it out of the scabbard. I'm afraid now that he'll suddenly swipe it across my neck. Plus, it is a crime to expose a large knife in public, for which I could have been charged with a felony. I grow most pissed, and I wish to punch him out for his arrogant disrespect. I sit there in trembling repose as he holds the knife in his feeble hands and closely examines the blade and hilt. I'm ready to scream. "Put the damn machete back in its sheath. What the fuck did I just tell you?" It's all I can do to restrain my outrage. He amuses while turning the blade several times beneath his glare. This is a strange thing. Don't know what to make of it. Topaz finally replaces the machete into its sleeve and returns it to my hands, desperate to bury it once more in my backpack. I then excuse myself, wishing never again to associate with this wingnut doofus. I have to get rid of this pronto. I later concluded on my way back hovel, where I stashed the blade on the loft once more and figured out how to dispose of it, all the while hearing the demon's shrill laughter in the back of my troubled mind. You'll never get rid of me for long. Someone else will find me and hand it to another who brings it to another, which is compelled without having clue to bring it back into your presence. Mocks the sonoran imp. Remember, he who wields the hilt will slice you to bits and not even know why or remember. Rivulets of icy sweat run down my temples and cheeks as I attempt to figure out how to defeat this monster. Dusk falls and I sit in my room alone with the machete, still undecided to dispose of it, or perhaps him. Then around 8 p.m., someone buzzes my hovel. It is a Roman, a burly dude straight out of the Michigan woods and 6'2". Scary dude, no doubt. Arrived in San Francisco about 4 years ago. A tentative friend at best. Definitely heterosexual, like many infiltrators of the Castro, who gay friendly. So, I tell him to wait by the bus stop. I have something to show him. I run down the stairway with the machete in hand and open the gate to speak with him on the sidewalk. What do you think of this, Roman? Dawn presented this to me last night, but I think I should get rid of it ASAP. Roman examines the hilt and scabbard, then removes the blade from its sheath for closer examination. He then looks up at me with trepidation. Yes, get rid of it right away. It's a sacrificial knife that has killed many people. Well, could you please get rid of it for me? Break it into pieces first and dispose of it in many separate trash bins, blocks from each other, I request. So Roman departs with this satanic weapon, which fortunately I never see again, though I really have no idea whether he really shattered the knife and trashed it in various receptacles. As far as I know, he might have sold it for a tidy profit, in which case the machete will find its way back to me on some dark day. Several weeks later, I cross paths with Roman and ask him about the machete. All he says is, I got rid of it, but does not tell as to exactly how. I still see Roman from time to time after all these years, usually to purchase some metro-grade ganja. I wonder, should I ask him about the devil's knife one more time, or should I just keep my mouth shut? I still have occasional nightmares about pieces of a fragmented machete being drawn back together through some sort of dark Brusian magic to reform themselves into a whole and haunt me down through the hands of naive mensajeros. Those are two very good and scary stories from Zeke. I will put his information to his Reddit down below, so you can check them out for yourself. Alright, well, I will see y'all on the next video. Remember, it's scary out there.